Good day, wonderful parents and homeschoolers. And today, again on this channel, I'll be sharing wisdom on raising godly and outstanding children, and of course, homeschooling with unshakable confidence. I am Coach C, and it's been a decade of helping parents becoming more intentional about their parenting. It's been a decade of helping them homeschool more confidently, and it's been a decade of helping them raise lifelong learners. It's been a decade of helping parents move from a default kind of parenting to a parenting by design. And once again, today, I'm here to share something amazing with you once again. So, we started a series last week on learning gaps, and we talked about three strategies, effective strategies to help your child tackle their learning gaps. Now, somebody might be asking, Coach Z, but I don't even know how to assess my child's learning gaps. All right, so today I'll be talking about ways that you can identify your child's learning gaps. And these ways are amazing and very easy for you to use as a parent out there. So you might be a parent who is already homeschooling her child, or you might be a parent who, however, her child is still in school but is taking or augmenting their child's education and taking it more seriously this year. All right, so I'll be sharing with you these things. I'll be sharing five things. So we have three things, but we have at least two bonuses. So you want to stay to the end to hear them. Now, one thing that happens to parents is that when they think about learning gaps, they always think about learning gaps from the perspective of academics only. You see, but majority of the learning gaps that you have even in academics are rooted in non-academic learning gaps. What do I mean by that? For example, you find out that a child, always in any task that you give this child, any task at home, whatever task you give this child, you find out that this child is always has no attention to those things. He's always distracted, or she's always distracted. Now, if this thing is affecting little things like chores at home, it's obviously, and practical things like chores at home, it's obviously going to affect them in their classwork, in their schoolwork, in their structured kind of learning. It's going to affect them. So when you see that kind of thing, you know that it's showing up as there's an issue, and this is a root problem that needs to be addressed, or it's going to affect other aspects of their life. Another thing that you want to begin to check, it might be a child who is not you know hardly remembers things when you send them on errands and all of that. If a child is presenting like that, it's going to also show up in their learning. So it's not going to be about the maths, the English, and all of that for the academic subjects, but it's going to be about their cognitive even abilities, which show up in every aspect of life. So as a parent, when you begin to see these things, in your child's life, you need to begin to work on them, because they are going to stay there for as long as possible. All right, until you actually do something about it. One thing I always tell parents to do, and when I begin to share these tips with you on how to assess your child's um, gaps, okay, one thing you need to have is observation skills. You need to learn how to observe your children. You need to. And when these things begin to show up, like I always tell the parents that I work with, who are in my membership, who are in my taking my coaching programs, I always like to tell them something. When a situation shows up in your child's life, no matter how bad that situation is, guess what? I believe that God is just bringing your attention to something that might even be of a greater problem in the future. So rather than screaming and shouting and yelling and being so distorted, all over the place, you want to begin to think. You want to be think, How do I move forward with this? How do I help this child? And how do I support this child? All right. So the very first thing I'm going to begin to share with you today will be you need to have one-on-one sessions with your children. You want to have one-on-one sessions and discussions with your children around their learning. Okay. You might already begin to see some of these children struggling in certain areas. You want to ask deeper questions about those areas that they're already struggling with. Okay, it might be clear to you and it might not be clear to you. Okay, but once you have regular discussions, maybe after schoolwork, it might be as a homeschooler, you might be having children. For homeschoolers, I think it's more direct. You see it. But if your children are already into lots of independent learning, then you need to be having discussions with them. You need to begin to ask them some very pertinent questions about their learning. Okay, so those questions will begin to help you know exactly where the issues are and how you can actually come in on those issues. You see, okay, so this keeps also help you to keep track on the things that your children are learning. It can be even as easy as your children went for club programs and all of that. You want to know what's going on there. Where they struggled, what was more interesting, what was more fun for them. In their learning of today, what stood out for you, what was difficult for you, what didn't you get clear about, you see. Okay. Number two, the second thing or tactic that you can use in assessing your child's learning gaps is board games. Okay, board games on different subjects. You won't believe the amazing board games out there on different subjects or even on different cognitive ability, on memory games, on games on attention games. Beautiful games are out there, on even emotional and social skills are out there. Aside that, you also have games on different subjects like maths, like physics, like amazing, like English. Okay, there's one board game. Oh, sorry, it's a flashcard. So you can use board games or flashcard. There's a flashcard that my children love so much, and it's just on English. Okay, it's on English, so we use it to really catch up on a lot of things. We are not only assessing the learning gaps, we are also even learning so much more. All right. The third thing that you can use are living books, like I also mentioned in the video the last time, and you can find it here. Okay. All right. So I mentioned living books are a way for you to close up the gaps. Okay, and they're also a way for you to assess the gaps. So during reading good books, living books, you want to begin to ask your children questions. When you mention a particular concept, what do you know about this concept? How much do you know about this concept? Do you like this concept? And all of that. You can begin to create conversation starters around that concept. You see. Number 4 thing, and this the bonus, yes, that you can begin to do with your children is that you can begin to generate quizzes. Oh yes, you can generate beautiful quizzes around certain topics, or you can generate beautiful quizzes around certain levels or certain subjects. Okay, you can begin to generate quizzes around that. And how can you do this? You can do this using ChatGPT. Just write out questions that maybe a 4-year-old should know, or sorry, not a 4-year-old now, maybe a 6-year-old should know around these particular subjects. All right. So you can begin to use those quizzes in a fun way, please. In a fun way. It's not about go and write something there. You can just create a time in the home that everybody's just having fun, and you're just asking questions, and you are able to assess where the child is at. Now, the fifth one that you need to know is that you can also get assessment placements. Okay, placement assessment in your child's education. You can get that. All right, and those things will help you definitely to do this. See you on